long before humans invented alarm clocks, deadlines, or the concept of Monday. The sky had its own schedule, and every morning, like clockwork, a single star would show up early, shine brighter than the rest, and vanish before anyone could say, "Nice entrance." That star? Venus. But to the ancient Romans, she had another name, Lucifer, the morning star. Not a demon, not a devil, just a punctual overachiever in the sky. Lucifer didn't start as a villain. He started as a celestial celebrity. The Romans saw him as the herald of dawn, the one who whispered, "Hey, son, it's your cue." He was the cosmic barista brewing light before the day began, and like all great performers, he had flair. He rose dramatically, glowed intensely, and exited stage left before the sun could steal his spotlight. But here's the twist. Venus isn't actually a star. She's a planet. A hot, cloudy, volcanic mess of a planet. Yet from Earth, she shines so brightly at dawn that ancient stargazers couldn't help but name her after light itself. Lux, light, and Ferae, to carry. Lucifer, the light bringer. In those days, nobody clutched their pearls at the name. It wasn't sinister. It was poetic. It was astronomy with a dash of Latin flair. Even Cicero, the Roman philosopher, casually mentioned Lucifer in his writings, probably while sipping wine and judging constellations, like they were fashion choices. So, how did this radiant morning star go from celestial darling to cosmic scapegoat? That is a tale of mistranslations, metaphors, and medieval drama. But for now, as you drift into sleep, picture Lucifer as he once was, a shimmering light in the early sky, rising with pride, glowing with purpose, and vanishing before the world could ask too many questions. Like and subscribe for more bedtime rebellions. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from, Earth, heaven, or somewhere in between. Picture this: ancient scrolls, flickering oil lamps, and prophets with a flair for metaphor. In the book of Isaiah, nestled deep in the Hebrew Bible, there is a passage that reads like a celestial roast. It's aimed at a Babylonian king, and it goes something like, "How you have fallen from heaven, Hillel ben Shahar." Now, if you're wondering who Hillel ben Shahar is, you're not alone. Translators scratched their heads, theologians raised their eyebrows, and somewhere in the distance, Lucifer started stretching for his entrance. Let's break it down. Hillel means shining one, or bright one. Ben Shahar means son of dawn. Put together, it's a poetic jab. You, oh glittery morning guy, thought you were hot stuff. And look at you now. It's not about angels. It's not about demons. It's about a king who got too big for his royal sandals. But centuries later, when this passage was translated into Latin, the phrase Hillel ben Shahar became, you guessed it, Lucifer, the light bringer, the morning star. And suddenly, a metaphor about a fallen monarch became the origin story of the universe. As most misunderstood celestial being, it's like calling your ex sunshine in a breakup poem, and someone later decides you were talking about a cosmic rebellion. This is where things get delightfully messy. Early Christian thinkers, reading the Latin translation, saw Lucifer and thought, aha, the fallen angel. And just like that, Hillel, the poetic insult, was rebranded as the ultimate rebel. But in the original Hebrew, there's no mention of angels, no wings, no pitchforks, just a king who flew too close to the divine spotlight and got burned. Let's be honest, Translation is hard. It's like trying to explain a pun in another language while juggling flaming scrolls. And when it comes to Lucifer, one particular translation mishap changed everything, turning a poetic metaphor into a cosmic scandal. Remember our friend Hillel ben Shahar from chapter 3? The Shining One, son of dawn. He was just a metaphorical roast aimed at a Babylonian king. But when early Christian scholars translated the Hebrew Bible into Latin, they saw Hillel and thought, sounds like Lucifer. And just like that, the name Lucifer was inserted into Isaiah 14:12. Now, to be fair, it wasn't malicious. It was poetic. The Latin word Lucifer was already used to describe Venus, the morning star. So the translators thought they were being clever. Let's use this elegant word to capture the idea of a fallen light, they said, probably while sipping wine and high-fiving each other in candlelight. But centuries later, readers saw Lucifer in the Bible and gasped. Wait, isn't that the devil's name? Cue dramatic thunder. This is where theology and linguistics collided like two sleepy goats on a mountain. The original Hebrew wasn't talking about Satan. It was mocking a king. But the Latin translation, elegant, poetic, and slightly misleading, gave birth to a whole new identity. Suddenly, Lucifer wasn't just a name for Venus. He was a fallen angel, a rebel, the original bad boy of heaven. And all because someone thought a metaphor needed a glow up. It's like translating your toast into you are a breakfast item and then building a religion around it. If you've ever met someone who insists on using their full name, middle name included, you've already met the spirit of ancient Rome. The Romans didn't just name things, they declared them. And when it came to the brightest star in the morning sky, they gave it a name that sounded like it belonged on a marble pedestal. Lucifer. Now, before you clutch your blanket in fear, let's clear something up. In ancient Rome, Lucifer wasn't a villain. He wasn't even mildly rude. He was just Venus, the planet, showing up early to the sky party and leaving before the sun could steal his thunder. The name Lucifer comes from two Latin words, lux, light, ferre, to carry. Put them together and you get Lightbringer. It's like calling someone Sunrise McGlowface, poetic, radiant, and absolutely not evil. Roman poets adored Lucifer. Cicero mentioned him. Ovid swooned over him. They saw him as the herald of dawn, the celestial hype man who warmed up the sky before the main act. He was punctual, dazzling, and, let's be honest, a bit of a diva. In fact, Roman astrologers tracked Venus's movements with the kind of obsession usually reserved for celebrity sightings. When Venus appeared in the morning, she was Lucifer. When she showed up in the evening, she was Vesper. Same planet, different time slot. It's like she had two stage names, depending on her mood. But here's where things get spicy. Centuries later, Christian translators stumbled upon the Hebrew phrase, Hillel ben Shahar, Shining One, Son of Dawn, in the book of Isaiah. They looked at it, squinted, and said, sounds like Lucifer. And just like that, the name was repurposed. From poetic lightbringer to fallen angel. From Venus to villain. It's like if someone mistook your LinkedIn title for a criminal record. Before Lucifer fell, he rose, not just in the sky, but through the ranks. And if you think corporate promotions are confusing, wait until you hear about the celestial org chart. Heaven, as imagined by early theologians, wasn't just clouds and harps. It was a divine administration. Think of it as the ultimate cosmic startup. Infinite light, eternal purpose, and a suspicious number of job titles: archangels, seraphim, cherubim. It was less choir of angels and more linked in for the divine. Lucifer, according to later Christian tradition, wasn't just any angel. He was the angel, the brightest, the most beautiful, the one who always got 5 stars on his performance reviews. Some even say he was the choir master of heaven, which, if true, means he probably had a perfect pitch and a flair for dramatic exits. But here's where things get bureaucratic. According to medieval thinkers like Thomas Aquinas, angels had roles, ranks, and responsibilities. There were 9 choirs of angels, divided into 3 tiers. Lucifer, he was allegedly a seraph. Top tier, front row, VIP access to the divine presence. And then, he asked for a raise. Okay, not literally, but the story goes that Lucifer, dazzled by his own brilliance, began to think, why should I serve when I could rule? It was the celestial equivalent of replying all to God's email with, actually, I have some notes. This didn't go over well. The heavenly HR department, led perhaps by the Archangel Michael, responded swiftly. There was a meeting. There were consequences. And Lucifer, once the light bringer, was escorted out of paradise with a flaming pink slip. But here's the twist. None of this is in the Bible. The idea of Lucifer as a rebellious angel comes from centuries of interpretation, imagination, and a deep human love for drama. The original texts are vague, the bureaucracy entirely invented. But oh, what a story it makes. Once upon a celestial Tuesday, or maybe it was a Thursday. Heaven doesn't do calendars. The brightest angel in the choir looked around and thought, I could run this place. Lucifer, the light bringer, wasn't just glowing. He was glowing with ambition. According to later Christian tradition, he didn't want to be just the top angel. He wanted to be more, higher, divine, the CEO of Heaven, Inc. And that, dear dreamer, is where things got spicy. The story goes that Lucifer, dazzled by his own brilliance, decided to challenge the divine order. He rallied a group of angels, the original startup crew, and declared, let's build our own heaven, with blackjack and better lighting. But rebellion in paradise is a tough sell. The Archangel Michael, heaven's head of security, stepped in with a flaming sword and a firm, not today, Sparkle Boy. What followed was the first celestial eviction notice. Lucifer and his crew were cast out, not gently, not quietly, but with the kind of drama that would make reality TV blush. And thus, the Great Fall. But here's the twist. The Bible doesn't give us a play-by-play. Most of this tale comes from later interpretations, apocryphal texts, and a generous helping of theological fan fiction. The actual verses are vague. The details, imaginative. The wings, optional. Still, the image stuck. Lucifer, once radiant, now fallen. Pride turned to punishment. Light turned to shadow. And somewhere in the distance, Venus kept rising every morning, as if to say, I'm still here, darling. By the time the 14th century rolled around, Lucifer had already been through a lot. Poetic misinterpretations, theological rebranding, and a celestial fall that would make any soap opera jealous. But then came Dante Alighieri, Italy's most ambitious tour guide to the afterlife. And he had opinions. In his epic poem, Inferno, the first part of the Divine Comedy, Dante descends through the 9 circles of hell. But Dante had other plans. Lucifer, in Dante's version, is stuck in the very center of hell, not in fire, but in ice, frozen, silent, immobile, chewing on traitors like a divine vending machine that only dispenses betrayal. Why ice? Because Dante believed that the worst sin was treachery, and treachery was cold. No passion, no heat, just icy betrayal. So Lucifer, the original rebel, was cast into a frozen lake at the bottom of hell, flapping his wings in vain and creating the very chill that keeps him trapped. It's poetic justice with frostbite. Dante's Lucifer has 3 faces, one chewing Judas Iscariot, one gnawing Brutus, and one munching Cassius. It's like a celestial buffet of betrayal, and he doesn't speak. He doesn't roar. He just suffers, quietly, eternally, like someone who opened a group chat and instantly regretted it. This version of Lucifer isn't glamorous. He's not seductive. He's tragic, a fallen light turned into a frozen shadow. And yet, he's still the center of everything, the gravitational anchor of Dante's moral universe. If Dante froze Lucifer into a silent icicle, John Milton thawed him out and handed him a microphone. In his 17th century masterpiece, Paradise Lost, Milton reimagined Lucifer not as a snarling villain, but as a tragic anti-hero, eloquent, proud, and dripping with existential sass. This wasn't just a fallen angel. This was Shakespeare meets rebellion, a cosmic Hamlet with wings. Milton's Lucifer is the ultimate dramatic lead. He doesn't just fall, he declares it. Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven, he says, probably while flipping his hair and walking away from a heavenly explosion in slow motion. This version of Lucifer is complex. He's not evil for evil's sake. He's ambitious. He questions authority. He's the angel who looked at the divine hierarchy and said, I have notes. And while his rebellion fails, his speeches soar. He's poetic, persuasive, and just self-aware enough to make readers wonder, is he really the villain? Milton's portrayal was so compelling that some readers, including romantic poets like Blake and Shelley, started rooting for him. They saw Lucifer as a symbol of defiance, of the human spirit refusing to be crushed, a misunderstood rebel with a tragic arc and killer dialogue. Of course, theologians weren't thrilled. They reminded everyone that Lucifer was still, technically, the bad guy. But the literary glow-up was complete. Lucifer had gone from frozen footnote to philosophical firebrand. Somewhere between theology and oil paint, Lucifer became a bit of a heartthrob. While theologians were busy debating his motives, artists were busy chiseling cheekbones and sketching wings, with the kind of detail usually reserved for fashion magazines. And thus, Lucifer, once a poetic metaphor, and later a frozen traitor, got a glow-up that would make even the most seasoned influencer blush. Let's start with sculpture. In the 19th century, Belgian artist Guillaume Gifs created a statue titled Le Génie du Mal, the genius of evil. It was meant to be a warning against sin, a cautionary tale. But there was just one problem. Lucifer looked amazing. Tousled hair, brooding eyes, abs that could cut glass. He was less fallen angel and more celestial runway model. The statue was so distractingly attractive that church officials had it removed. Too inspiring, they said. Too relatable. Gifs's brother, made a replacement version that was slightly more modest, but the damage was done. Lucifer had entered the art world as the original bad boy, with a tragic backstory and impeccable bone structure. Painters weren't far behind. Artists like Gustave Doré and Franz von Stuck depicted Lucifer with dramatic flair, wings outstretched, eyes smoldering, often perched on a cliff, like he was about to drop the hottest mixtape in hell. Why the makeover? Because art loves a fallen star. There's something irresistible about beauty in exile, light in shadow, rebellion wrapped in grace. Lucifer became the ultimate muse, not because of what he did, but because of what he represented: ambition, loss, defiance, and the eternal question, what if? Lucifer-like journey from celestial glow-up to infernal icon wasn't just a fall. It was a full-blown marketing overhaul. And like all great rebrands, it involved fear, folklore, and a suspicious amount of fire. Once the name Lucifer got tangled up in translations and theological drama, storytellers across centuries couldn't resist turning him into the ultimate villain. He wasn't just a fallen angel anymore. He was the CEO of sin, the poster child for temptation, and the guy who allegedly invented pitchforks and bad decisions. But here's the thing. Most of what we associate with the devil didn't come from scripture. It came from stories, legends, campfire tales, told by people who really wanted to scare their kids into behaving. Medieval Europe was especially creative. They imagined Lucifer with horns, hooves, and a tail, none of which appear in the Bible, by the way. Artists painted him red, gave him goat legs, and made him look like he'd just lost a wrestling match with a barbecue grill. It was less theology and more horror fan fiction. Folklore added layers. In some tales, Lucifer played the fiddle. In others, he made deals at crossroads. He became the villain in morality plays, the shadow in fairy tales, and the guy who always showed up when someone said, "I'd sell my soul for a sandwich." And let's not forget the fire. Hell, as imagined by poets and painters, became a flaming pit of eternal torment, perfect for dramatic lighting and ominous monologues. Lucifer, once the morning star, was now the master of this infernal spa. It was hot, crowded, and had terrible Yelp reviews. But beneath the flames and fear, the original Lucifer, the Lightbringer, still flickered, a misunderstood figure buried under centuries of storytelling, symbolism, and spooky branding. Imagine waking up one day and realizing the world thinks you're someone else. You're just trying to shine like the morning star, and suddenly people are calling you the Prince of Darkness. That's the celestial confusion Lucifer's been dealing with for centuries. Let ES clear the cosmic air. Lucifer and Satan are not the same character. At least, not originally. Lucifer was the poetic name for Venus, the morning star. Satan, on the other hand, was the adversary, the courtroom prosecutor in the book of Job, the cosmic critic, the divine dissenter. He wasn't fallen. He was employed. But over time, the lines blurred. The name Lucifer appeared in Isaiah as a metaphor for a fallen Babylonian king. Later readers, especially in the Latin-speaking Christian world, saw Lucifer and thought, that must be Satan's real name. And just like that, the morning star got a new resume, complete with horns, hooves, and a reputation for ruining everything. It is like confusing Clark Kent with Bruce Wayne, because they both wear suits and brood a lot. The confusion deepened In medieval theology, writers began stitching together verses from Isaiah, Ezekiel, Revelation, and Job, creating a patchwork narrative where Lucifer was the angel who fell, became Satan, and now runs hell like a very angry landlord. But the original texts, they never say that. Lucifer is a poetic name. Satan is a role. The merger was more myth than manuscript. Still, the identity stuck. Pop culture ran with it. Literature embraced it. And soon, Lucifer and Satan were sharing the same spotlight, one as the tragic rebel, the other as the eternal antagonist. Sometimes they were suave, sometimes they were scary, but always they were misunderstood. By the time the Enlightenment rolled around, Lucifer had already been through a lot: poetic misinterpretation, theological drama, frozen exile, and artistic thirst traps. But in the world of mystics, philosophers, and candle-loving esoteric thinkers, he got a fresh new look. And this time, it came with incense and a manifesto. Welcome to the occult rebrand. In certain mystical traditions, especially those influenced by Gnosticism, Hermeticism, and later occult movements, Lucifer wasn't the villain. He was the misunderstood hero, the bringer of light, the one who dared to question authority and seek knowledge. Basically, he was the celestial version of that one friend who reads banned books and always has a crystal in their pocket. Lucifer became a symbol of enlightenment, not evil, but illumination, not destruction, but awakening. He was the rebel who said, "I want to know more," and got punished for it. And to some thinkers, that made him relatable. Writers like William Blake and Aleister Crowley leaned into this idea. They saw Lucifer as a figure of personal empowerment, a cosmic Prometheus who stole divine fire and said, "Here, humans, try not to burn yourselves." It was bold, it was controversial, and it definitely made theologians clutch their rosaries. In these circles, Lucifer wasn't worshipped. He was admired as a metaphor, as a symbol, as the embodiment of the eternal human itch to ask, but why? He became the patron saint of curiosity, rebellion, and really dramatic candlelit rituals. Of course, this rebrand came with baggage. Critics warned that glorifying Lucifer was dangerous, confusing, possibly unhinged. But the mystics didn't care. They were too busy drawing sigils and debating metaphysics over herbal tea. If you thought Lucifer's story peaked in Renaissance paintings and theological debates, think again. The morning star has officially entered the chat, and this time, he's got a fan base, a wardrobe, and a killer theme song. Welcome to the age of pop culture Lucifer, where the fallen angel isn't just feared, he's fabulous. Let's start with comics. In Neil Gaiman's The Sandman, Lucifer appears as a suave, silver-haired nightclub owner who's tired of ruling hell and just wants to play piano in peace. He's charming, philosophical, and deeply bored, like a celestial retiree who's over the drama and just wants to vibe. This version was so popular that DC Comics gave him his own spin-off series, Lucifer, where he explores free will, morality, and occasionally punches demons in the face. It's existential, stylish, and surprisingly deep, like if Plato wore leather and had a British accent. Then came television. In 2016, Lucifer hit the small screen, starring Tom Ellis as the devilishly handsome Lord of Hell who moves to Los Angeles, opens a nightclub, and helps solve crimes. Yes, really, it's part procedural, part romance, part celestial therapy session, and fans loved it. This Lucifer isn't evil. He's misunderstood, He's trying to change. He's got daddy issues, a therapist, and a tendency to quote Shakespeare while sipping whiskey. He's the ultimate redemption arc, with abs. Pop culture also gave us Lucifer in music, video games, anime, and even fashion. He's everywhere. Sometimes he's scary. Sometimes he's seductive. Sometimes he's just tired. But always, he's compelling. Why? Because Lucifer represents something deeply human. The struggle between light and shadow, pride and humility, rebellion and redemption. He's the character who fell and keeps trying to rise. If Lucifer were a book character, he'd be the one leaning against the shelves, quoting obscure poetry and asking if you've read the footnotes. And lucky for him, he is. From dusty tomes to best-selling novels, Lucifer has become one of literature's most enduring, complex, and oddly charismatic figures. He's not just the villain. He's the voice, the question, the plot twist in every theological thriller. Let's start with Goethe, the German literary giant who gave us Faust. In this tale, the devil appears as Mephistopheles, sly, witty, and ready to make deals. He's not fire and brimstone. He's sarcasm and silk. And while he's technically not called Lucifer, the vibe is unmistakable. Temptation with a vocabulary. Then there's Lord Byron, who practically invented the Byronic hero. Brooding, rebellious, and emotionally unavailable. Sound familiar? Lucifer became the literary blueprint for characters who fall, suffer, and look amazing doing it. Fast forward to Neil Gaiman, whose Sandman series reimagines Lucifer as a weary ruler of hell who quits his job and opens a piano bar. He's philosophical, charming, and tired of being misunderstood. It's like if Oscar Wilde and David Bowie had a celestial child. Lucifer also shows up in poetry, plays, and novels across centuries. Sometimes he's tragic. Sometimes he's terrifying. Sometimes he's just trying to explain himself. Writers love him because he's layered, a symbol of pride, freedom, rebellion, and regret. He's the character who asks, what if the villain had a point? And readers, they're hooked. Because Lucifer isn't just a fallen angel. He's a literary mirror, reflecting our doubts, our dreams, and our occasional desire to challenge the divine syllabus. Long before theology turned him into a cosmic rebel, Lucifer was just Venus, the second planet from the sun and the brightest object in the sky after the moon. And in the world of astronomy, Venus is still doing what she's always done, showing up early, shining like a diva, and confusing everyone with her schedule. Venus is often called the morning star because she appears in the eastern sky just before sunrise. But she's not a star at all. She's a planet, a hot, cloudy, volcanic mess of a planet, wrapped in a thick atmosphere that reflects sunlight so brilliantly, she outshines everything else in the dawn sky. Here's the science behind the sparkle. Venus orbits closer to the sun than Earth, which means we only ever see her near sunrise or sunset, never in the middle of the night. When she's ahead of the sun in her orbit, she rises before it, hence the morning star. When she's behind the sun, she sets after it, becoming the evening star. Sometimes, Venus is so bright, she casts shadows. Ancient sky watchers thought she was a divine messenger. Modern astronomers know she's just reflecting sunlight, like a cosmic mirror with attitude. And get this, Venus rotates so slowly that a day on Venus is longer than its year. One full spin takes 243 Earth days, while a full orbit around the sun takes just 225 days. So, if you lived there, you'd celebrate your birthday before your next sunrise. Talk about confusing party planning. Despite her beauty, Venus is inhospitable. Surface temperatures reach over 460 degrees, and the pressure is like being 900 meters underwater. But from Earth, she's serene, peaceful, a glowing reminder that light can rise even in the darkest hours. Lucifer may have started as a Latin name for Venus, but his reputation didn't stay in one theological neighborhood. Like a cosmic backpacker with a flair for drama, the morning star shows up in other religious traditions, sometimes familiar, sometimes surprising, always fascinating. Let's start with Islam. In Islamic theology, the figure most often compared to Lucifer is Iblis, a jinn who refused to bow to Adam. Unlike angels, jinn have free will, and Iblis chose pride over obedience. He wasn't cast out for rebellion. He was excluded for arrogance. Sound familiar? It's a different story, but the themes echo. Pride, fall, regret, and a long career in temptation. Then there's Gnosticism, the ancient mystical movement that loved cosmic drama. Gnostics often flipped the script, portraying the material world as a trap and the divine spark as something to be reclaimed. In some Gnostic texts, the Lightbringer isn't he evil? He is the one trying to wake humanity up. Lucifer, in this context, becomes a symbol of enlightenment, not damnation. He's the rebel who says, hey, maybe question the syllabus. In Kabbalistic and esoteric Jewish traditions, the idea of fallen angels exists, but Lucifer isn't a central figure. Instead, there are stories of angels like Samael, who plays a more ambiguous role, sometimes as accuser, sometimes as tempter, sometimes just vibing in the shadows. It's complicated, like most celestial HR files. In Eastern religions, Lucifer doesn't appear by name, but the archetype of the proud, fallen figure does. In Hinduism, for example, the demon king Ravana is brilliant, powerful, and ultimately undone by his ego. In Buddhism, Mara tempts the Buddha, not with evil, but with distraction. These aren't Lucifers, but they rhyme. And in modern spiritual movements, Lucifer has been reimagined as a symbol of personal freedom, inner light, and the courage to question authority. To some, he's not the enemy. He's the spark, the one who says, think for yourself. It's controversial, sure, but it's also deeply human. Lucifer's journey has taken him from ancient poetry to theological drama, from icy exile to literary stardom. But in the 21st century, he's found a new throne, the internet. And let's be honest, he's thriving. Today, Lucifer isn't just a myth. He's a meme, a metaphor, a mood. He shows up in TikToks, tweets, fan edits, and think pieces. Sometimes he's brooding. Sometimes he's dancing. Sometimes he's just sipping coffee and side-eyeing the divine order. Let's break down his modern personas. The meme. Lord Lucifer is the star of countless memes, usually captioned with things like, when you get kicked out of heaven, but still look fabulous, or Dadra, me, rebelling against bedtime. He's relatable, dramatic, and always photogenic. The internet loves a misunderstood icon with good lighting, the icon. In pop culture, Lucifer has become a symbol of independence, rebellion, and self-expression. He's the patron saint of people who ask hard questions, challenge norms, and wear black with confidence. Whether it's in fashion, music, or social media bios, Lucifer energy is shorthand for unapologetic flair. The metaphor. For writers, thinkers, and late-night bloggers, Lucifer represents the eternal tension between conformity and curiosity. He's the spark that says, "What if?" The shadow that makes the light more interesting. He's not just a character, he's a concept, a cosmic reminder that falling isn't always failing. And let's not forget the fan communities. From Reddit threads to Tumblr essays, people dissect Lucifer's every appearance: theological, literary, cinematic, and symbolic. They debate his motives, his outfits, and whether he deserves a redemption arc. Spoiler: most say yes. If celestial courtrooms existed, Lucifer would have hired the best lawyers in the cosmos. Part philosopher, part theologian, all dramatic flair. And their opening argument? "Ladies and gentlemen of the divine jury, my client was framed." Over the centuries, a curious thing happened. Thinkers, writers, and spiritual rebels began to wonder, what if Lucifer wasn't the villain? What if he was the scapegoat? The misunderstood whistleblower of heaven? Enter the defense team. First up, the Romantics. Poets like William Blake and Percy Bysshe Shelley didn't just sympathize with Lucifer, they admired him. Blake famously wrote, "The reason Milton wrote in fetters when he wrote of angels and God, and at liberty when of devils and hell, is because he was a true poet, and of the devil's party without knowing it." Translation: Milton's Lucifer was too cool to be the bad guy. Then came the philosophers. Some argued that Lucifer represented the human spirit, the drive to question, to seek truth, to rebel against unjust authority. He wasn't evil. He was necessary, a cosmic catalyst for growth, like the universe's most dramatic life coach. Even some theologians got in on the action, suggesting that Lucifer's fall was part of a divine plan, a necessary contrast to highlight free will, redemption, and the beauty of grace. In this view, Lucifer isn't the enemy, he's the foil, the shadow that makes the light shine brighter. And let's not forget the modern mystics, who see Lucifer as a symbol of inner awakening. To them, he's not a fallen angel, he's the spark of consciousness, the one who says, "Think for yourself, ask the hard questions. Also, maybe light a candle." Of course, the prosecution has their case too. Pride, rebellion, temptation, the whole Apple incident. But the defense rests on this: Lucifer's story is more complex than fire and horns. It's about choice, consequence, and the eternal tension between obedience and autonomy. After centuries of falling, freezing, philosophizing, and fanboying, one question remains: can Lucifer be redeemed? It's the ultimate cosmic plot twist. The villain, who was once the light bringer, could he return to the light? The idea isn't just poetic, it's deeply human. Because if Lucifer can be forgiven, maybe anyone can. Let's start with theology. Traditional Christian doctrine says Lucifer's fall was final. No takebacks, no appeals, no celestial parole. He chose pride. He chose rebellion. He chose exile. Case closed. But not everyone agrees. Some thinkers, especially in mystical and esoteric circles, argue that redemption is universal, that even the most fallen can rise, that grace is infinite. In this view, Lucifer isn't locked out forever. He's on a journey, a long, fiery, dramatic journey toward reconciliation. Literature loves this idea. Writers have imagined Lucifer repenting, reflecting, even returning. In some stories, he's tired of ruling hell. In others, he seeks forgiveness. In a few, he becomes a guide, helping others avoid his mistakes. It's redemption with wings. Pop culture flirts with it too. TV Lucifers go to therapy. Comic book Lucifers quit their jobs. Fan fiction Lucifers cry in the rain and write poetry. The arc is always the same, from pride to pain to possibility. And why does this idea resonate? Because we love a comeback. We believe in second chances. We want to think that no one is beyond hope, not even the morning star. Lucifer's tale isn't just one story. It's a constellation of them, scattered across languages, scriptures, paintings, poems, and pop culture. He's been a planet, a metaphor, a villain, a hero, a meme, and a muse. And through it all, one thing has remained constant. He shines, whether as Venus in the morning sky or a tragic figure in epic verse. Lucifer has always been about light. Even when cast in shadow, his legacy isn't just rebellion, it's complexity. It's the reminder that every fall has a reason, every exile has a story, and every misunderstood soul deserves a second look. He's the poetic whisper in Isaiah, the icy statue in Dante, the eloquent rebel in Milton, the nightclub philosopher in Gaiman, the meme with perfect eyeliner, and the planet that still rises before dawn, quietly doing what he was named for, bringing light. Lucifer's journey is ours too, a dance between pride and humility, curiosity and caution, brilliance and boundaries. He's not just a character, he's a mirror. And whether you see him as a warning or a wonder, he's unforgettable. So tonight, as you close your eyes and drift into dreams, know that the morning star is still out there, glowing softly in the sky, wrapped in myth and humming with stories. He's not waiting to be feared. He's waiting to be understood. Thank you for traveling through the cosmos of metaphor and meaning. You've read the whole epic. You've seen the light, the fall, the flame, and the frost. And now, it's time to rest. Good night, stargazer. Sleep deep. Dream bright.